And that something just might change your life and actually make a damn difference in my life.
You're going to want to pay attention to this one.
Hey everybody, David Nagel. You're going to love this episode.
Someone once said, a child only has to make up their mind. An adult has to change it. He said, then you condition it to hold the positive idea so firmly that it becomes the ruling factor in your thoughts, your acts, and your words. What does that mean? Well, it means that we move it to a place where we don't have to think about it anymore. Now, I'd like you to really think about that for the next few days. The idea is that you move the new way of being into your habitual way of thinking so that you don't have to consciously think about it anymore. I think you've heard me say this before. I have people ask me all the time, like, what's my gratitude practice in the morning? I don't have one. I just am grateful. I used to have one, but I've moved it into my subconscious so much that I'm automatically grateful for everything. I don't have to think about, how can I be grateful for this? I reconstructed my whole way of thinking around most of the stuff in my life. So you literally, that's the elite mind, right? That's why you see somebody like a Michael Jordan or a Kobe Bryant, they will miss a shot in a game, and after the game or all the next day, they will just shoot that shot 1,000 times over because they rewire it so it becomes automatic where they don't have to think about it in the middle of the game. Like, I'm never going to miss that shot again. But in order to never miss that shot again, I have to reconstruct that shot in the gym and do it so many times that it becomes hardwired in my nervous system. To go from being envious or jealous to being inspired and really turned on is by repetitively changing the way you think when you see someone that's doing better than you. When you see yourself not doing well, and instead of beating yourself up, you see it as a challenge to do better. And if you can do that automatically, can you imagine how much faster you'll move into your success? When we get triggered by some idea that we're not enough, that is a shame pattern. That is indicative of some kind of shame that was introduced into your life prior to the age of 7, and it is spiraling based on how you are viewing yourself and you're comparing yourself to the world. Now, I'm saying this because for those of you that are having this problem, I want you to recognize it and slap yourself the hell out of it. It is not productive at all. It is not going to help you. It is going to drag you down. The whole key here is to, recognize that you're having that reaction. I'm not condemning the reaction or criticizing the reaction, but you have to recognize that that's where your challenge point is right now. That's what's coming up for you. So the idea is we want to reverse it. We want to break that pattern, and we want to see ourselves as being the person that we want to be and be grateful and happy for those that are winning, for those that may be ahead of us.
You said that when we are triggered by not being enough, it's a shame pattern coming up that was introduced prior to the age of 7. Uh-huh. This can be very easily, to create a spiral of self-sabotage and sort of stunt any growth that you might have experienced. So how does the idea of not being enough hold us back, and what needs to shift to get us out of that spiral of thought?
So I think that every human being has a specific purpose to be in the lifetime that they're in. It seems ridiculous to me to think that every other life form on our planet has a specific purpose and human beings don't. So let me start with that idea. Now, the next thing is, how does a human being become aware of that purpose, and then what do they actually do with it? We don't raise people to become aware of that purpose. We raise people to go their whole life being safe, finding a way to live where they're safe, they can take care of themselves. If they have a little bit of accomplishment, okay, fine, but not to go too far out of the box, with that idea. So, what is it that keeps a person in that box is a question people have asked for thousands of years. How do you take a human being that has a highly developed intellect? We have the most developed intellect on the planet that we're aware of, and yet we're also the person that is so developed we can stop ourselves from fulfilling our purpose. We introduce self-hate. Mm-hmm. Shame is self-hate. So once that's introduced into the psychology of a human being, you have shame on one hand, you have guilt on the other hand. If it is overboard, and it's overboard with a lot of people, they cannot give themselves permission to express themselves to the degree where they expose and produce and cultivate their greatness to live their purpose, because they're so afraid that they're going to make a mistake. They're so afraid of what other people are going to think of them. They're so afraid that they'll embarrass somebody or intrude on somebody's life. Like, shame does a number on our psychology. And in order for that to go away, we get to a healthy place, we have to build our self-esteem to a point where we're confident in who we are, and we're confident that if we make a mistake, we're going to figure out how to do things in a different way, whether it is a mistake that inconvenienced another person, or it's a mistake because you're trying new things and you want to see what the results are and you need to correct that mistake to get a different result. Mistakes are not bad. That's how we learn as human. It's how all life learns, is through making mistakes. It does something, and if it doesn't get the result, it does something different, and then different again, and then different again, until it gets the result. But there's no other form of life that looks at itself and says when it made a mistake, you're bad. You're a bad dandelion. You're a bad oak tree. You're a bad frog. It doesn't exist except with human beings.
You have probably said 1,000 times what you just said. Very simply, shame is self-hate. And I don't think I heard it until now. Like, you've probably said that many times before in that same bent, but I never heard it until just now.
So our mindset is really made up of our values and our belief systems. And a middle-class mindset is nothing more than a set of values and belief systems that are taught to people that are born and raised middle class, working class, even professional class, to some extent, that allows them to basically navigate their life, make good choices for in financial environment, the work environment that they're born into and they're being raised in, so that they can navigate it for most of their life. And the problem that is with that is that it's entirely different from an entrepreneurial mindset. Neither one is good or bad. I think it's a preference. It's a life preference. It's a life choice for whatever it is that you're looking for to experience your life or what you want to get out of life. But what we find is that if somebody is raised with and raised in a middle class mindset, the values and beliefs that they hold, that they cherish, that they live by, are not going to give them the results they're looking for if they want to be business owners and entrepreneurs, and even worse, may cause them to fail or have really bad results in a lot of ways.
The problem sometimes with the middle class mindset is that you, as a business owner, you're working and you think you're doing all the right things. You don't realize you're not operating from an entrepreneurial mindset or from a wealth mindset, because these middle class beliefs can be very sneaky, and it's what you know, right? Can you talk about, like, say, a handful of these sneaky middle class beliefs that sabotage someone's ability to really kind of break out of the mold and achieve success?
Once they're in business, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. So the idea around business is that you're taking a product or a service to market to benefit others at a profit. And one of the main things that we see is that the person who is running the business does not understand what profit is, why profit is important, and they end up creating a system or a structure, including pricing, including not paying themselves, that they think is going to allow them to sell more products or services to other people. The other thing is that there's this idea that seems to run rampant with people that have never been in business to themselves, that if you have the right product or service, that's enough. People will come to you, and without any logical thinking as to how they're going to know about it. And I have talked to literally thousands of people all over the world that suffer from this belief, that they think just because they believe they have a good product or service, people should come to them, but they can never explain to you, well, how would they even know about it? And I mean, of course, it was worse before we had the internet and social media and stuff like that. But even with all of the technology that we have today, people are so buried by how much there is. Nobody could possibly know about what it is that you have if they're not actually told about it. So there are several different things that require a person stand up, stand out, and be a voice for what it is that they have to offer in the world, and learn the skill sets that allow them to communicate that with their given or chosen market. And if they don't know these things and they don't know how to cultivate those skills or where to go look or who to ask, they're in real trouble from the starting point. And then there's the ultimate one, because listen, a person can have a business of one. It could be just a business of, you're the business all by yourself. When I first started, I was the business, and I had a product, I had a service. My job every day was to sell my product or service. That means I needed to find and ask people to buy. And if people are afraid of rejection, they're afraid of what other people think. They're afraid that they won't get what it is that they need. They will sit all day long doing busy work, because basically that's how they were taught to earn a living. Most people don't realize that, by the way, Steph, that in a middle class mindset, we are trained from babies to learn a skill, go to a job, and receive a paycheck every week. In our mind, we're getting paid for showing up and doing that job. So if you take somebody that has never experienced the thought process of what it's like to own a business, and they start a business, very often they will subconsciously just get involved in tons of busy work, and they'll really be confused as to why they're not getting paid. It's one of the most bizarre things to witness, but it happens all the time because they're not programmed from a cause and effect perspective as, what do I need to specifically do to generate income to come into my business?